Good evening and welcome to The Deal. I'm your host, Ed Clark. Thanks for joining us on this Wednesday. Obviously, still a lot going on with COVID-19, but there's always a lot of other news that we need to cover. Tonight, we got a lot of guests in with us. Joining us first off is going to be Val Atkinson, our resident political science professor. We have Chrishawn Williams, former All-American long jumper from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Got a short interview with Crystal Mangum, which is very interesting. I'll tell you a little more about that later. And finally, we end up with Ed Butler. He's a musician based here in Raleigh, but he plays all over the world. And we're going to talk to him about how it's changed music being quarantined from COVID-19. Without wasting a whole bunch of time, let's go ahead and get Val Atkinson in here. Val, welcome back to The Deal.
Yeah. Thank you, Ed. Good to be back again.
You know, so this is like a broken record, but we have to go here every time we talk. The numbers continue to rise of people who were affected by COVID-19, and we're fast approaching 50,000 people who are probably going to be affected or killed from COVID-19. We're around 45,000 people right now. What's the latest that you've heard, Val, about the numbers and how this thing is still continuing to escalate?
Well, high 40s is the number that it seems to be hovering around right now. I look to see it at over 50 by the time we roll into next week. I think the concern right now, Ed, centers around reopening the economy or reopening the country, and whether or not we do it too soon. What are the consequences if we do? And I think there's an aside question here that isn't being dealt with fairly or upfront, and that is the choice happens to be that of the patron, the customer, as to whether or not they patronize these businesses. It's not about businesses will open and the people will come.
Right.
It's the other way around. And I am concerned about some of our employees that work in some of these businesses that are thinking about reopening right away. If some of these employees choose not to come in, either because the schools aren't open yet and they don't have anywhere for their children to be taken care of, or they are concerned about their health and they don't want to be dealing with 40, 50, 60 new people every day in a retail outlet, running the risk up that they will contract COVID-19.
Mm. Yeah,
So
that's a
my
good
question
point.
is, what do the authorities do if these people decide that they are not going to put themselves and their family at risk by going back to work too soon? And you definitely can't make them shop if they don't want to shop.
Well, what about these people that are protesting in downtown Raleigh and in Lansing, Michigan, and Columbus, Ohio, saying that we need to open up immediately, that somehow magically all the stuff you talked about isn't going to matter and things are going to go back to normal? Who are these people, number one, and what the hell is their problem?
They are the old Tea Party, Ed. These are right-wing Trump supporters by and large. They know that a large part of Trump's re-election chances hangs on the whether or not the economy is doing well or not come this fall. So they want all the opportunity in the world for the economy to come back so he can run on the economy, look at the economy, forget about everything else I did or did not do. The economy is coming, so vote for me.
Yeah.
And these are people who support Trump thick and thin, right or wrong, and they're out there. This is their form of the rally. This is what Donald Trump can't do anymore because of social distancing. So
Mm.
he's decided to let them do it for him. And of course, what kind of gets my ire a little bit is that I'm concerned about some of our major networks are, unwitting accomplices of this type of pseudo rally that
Yeah.
Trump is on. Why are they covering 17 people who are protesting on some side street in Washington or in Atlanta, and then there's 170 million who are afraid, who are trying to get tested and can't get it, and are afraid to go outside?
Yeah.
Uh, that doesn't make sense to me. The media really needs to start taking a close look at themselves and don't knee-jerk jump at every opportunity to make another dollar based on good ratings, and cover things that are going to be good for the country.
Val, I'm glad you bring that up because I've been really concerned about it too. I just do not like the coverage that I'm seeing. I think there's too much attention being paid directly to the president and his, 5 o'clock follies where he gets up there and does his rally. And then too much attention is being paid to those people, like you said, who you want to open up. And I'll put that in quotes because nothing's going to open up unless people come to it. I'm certainly not going to go to a restaurant. I'm not going to the movies. I'm not going anywhere until I hear from somebody like Dr. Fauci or right here in North Carolina. Every day, the briefing that the Governor Cooper does, which is a really good briefing, he doesn't get any coverage because I guess he's not, the most, outspoken person or whatever. But the North Carolina briefings are way better than the New York briefings to me. And North Carolina had proven up until this point that it could do something correctly, which is keep everybody at home, except for now these other people who are trying to push Governor Cooper and other folks into doing something else. One of the things, again, like I said, the coverage should be better. It should be covering what you're talking about, which is there testing? I would hammer that completely all the time because nobody's going to be safe unless we know who has COVID-19. I want to remind the folks you're watching the View. You're watching the deal. You're watching the deal with Ed Clark and my guest Val Atkinson. It's a Wednesday night in April 22nd edition, and we're just trying to make some sense of what's going on, and it doesn't seem to be any sense to be made of it, Val. I wrote a new piece for the blog today, and I concentrated on one thing. I heard a story out of Florida about people who were having a whole bunch of trouble trying to get unemployment benefits. And the reason why is the state of Florida completely rigged the unemployment program. And it's one, next to impossible to get benefits. And two, if you get them, you only get $275 a week maximum. That means a lot of other people aren't even going to get that maximum amount. And so unemployment is not really going to do a whole lot for people, even with the enhanced unemployment that came out in one of the stimulus packages. Can you talk to me about what unemployment insurance is supposed to be? Because I think you know a little bit about this and what it's turned into in a lot of southern states where they've reduced benefits down to almost nothing.
Well, the way it's supposed to work is that employers are taxed throughout the year based on the number of employees they have and some other calculations. This taxed money goes into a fund that is also supplemented with funds from the federal government. And that fund is used to pay unemployment benefit claims for people who have followed the rules and are out of work at no cause of their own. Now, there are certain stipulations. You can't go up and slap your boss and say, I quit. And I'm going to get unemployment benefits.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be that you were let go because of no fault of your own, and you qualified. And being qualified has to do with something like Social Security as well.
Right.
Look at the amount of time that you've worked. They look at so many other factors to determine how much money you'll get. Now, there is a maximum that any person can receive during Social Security. There's a maximum amount, and there's a maximum amount of time that those funds can be drawn or received. So that's the way it normally works. Now, with this added money here, I believe I'm correct, about $600
Right.
be added to the amount of money that one would normally qualify for through unemployment benefits. Now, that's not a lot of money, but it is enough maybe to put food on the table for a little while you seek a reemployment. But right now, what I am concerned about are the medium to large businesses who are really at the table stealing the food before the small businesses and employees can get a seat.
Right.
At the table. And all of these monies that have been promised may not get where they're supposed to go. I wish this were a Sunday call-in show, because I want people to call me right now. Everybody who's received a check so far.
Yeah.
Everybody who's received a deposit so far in their account. There are some, but I think it would be surprisingly low.
I do too.
Yeah. Few, the number of people, and here we're talking about the 22nd of April, and they started talking about stimulus checks going out the first week of April, and people haven't received monies yet. We're hearing stories about banks holding on to checks extra few days, and that may not seem like a lot, but if you have thousands upon thousands of people getting $1,200, $2,400, $3,400 in checks, and you multiply that times 20 or 30,000, or maybe even more, 2 days worth of interest on that's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. So the bank is using those people's money to make money.
To make money, absolutely. And the people here are still not doing well at all. I had an opportunity today to have a person from my Wi-Fi provider to come in because I was having some troubles, and they actually sent a person out to repair my Wi-Fi and get things going properly. And luckily, I had an extra mask.
So they didn't have one.
He didn't have one.
Ah.
I had an extra mask that I asked him, please wear in my home, because I don't know you. I don't know who you are.
Well, I had people in the office here today to put up a sign, and they didn't come in with a mask. I wore my mask and gloves while they were here, and they didn't. And I sprayed down after they left, and I'm not ashamed to say I did it again. COVID-19 has proven to be a very resilient germ. It does not discriminate from who gets it. Now, it does seem to discriminate on who has adverse outcomes, but the fact is that a lot of people have COVID-19 and a lot more are going to get it. And these folks who are trying to force the economy back open are dangerous to me. I don't understand how supporting Donald Trump equates to being willing to put your family at risk, There were people at some of these demonstrations that had children out there. There were older folks out there. They weren't practicing social distancing, and you may encounter those folks in the grocery store, and there won't be anything you can do about it. And that's what's bothering me. One other topic I do want to cover with you, Val, before we get out of here is the state of Georgia. The governor has decided he wants to open beauty salons, barbershops, tattoo parlors, the stuff that requires you to be right up on somebody. What is that about? Why did he pick those things? I have a theory, but I don't want to be that cynical, but you tell me why you think he picked those industries to open back up.
I don't know, but I'll say whatever the reason, it would come under the category of political.
Right. Yeah.
And because there are very few things that those types of people do in this time, in this climate, that aren't political, Ed.
Right.
And they are looking at anything they can do to encourage their base to say that, yeah, well, they're trying, and they're giving them a good sock in the eye. They're poking them in the eye with a sharp stick. And that's what these guys are about. Maybe they have some people that they want to satisfy and please, that they open up. Maybe they know certain people will want to hang out at barbershops and salons.
Right.
And get next to each other and have more coronavirus cases than others. I don't know. I wish I could read his mind.
Yeah.
What I do know is that I am confident that people are smarter than some of these politicians give them credit for, and they are going to make good decisions as to when is the best time for me and my family to go out and reopen this economy, this government. Yeah. And I won't do it because you want me to do it, when you want me to do it, or why you want me to do it. I do it when it's beneficial to me and my family. And I think that's the position that most Americans are going to take. And those people who are trying to push this economy open quickly or faster than it should be, I think they're going to be sorely surprised.
Yeah, and I guess I'll end on this note, Val. I did see a story earlier this afternoon that Tom Tillis from North Carolina, one of our senators who, is kind of suspect to me. He's a Trump. He's been completely down with Trump. But he did say this afternoon that people should not go back out too soon, that people needed to wait until the right time. And I was really surprised to hear that from him. But I'm thankful that he did say it.
Well, one of the reasons he's doing this, he's 7 points down in the polls.
Right.
And he is trying to do whatever is necessary to put votes away from Cal Cunningham.
Yeah.
And right now, if the election were held today, I think Tom Tillis would lose. Of course, we got a long ways to go between now and November the 3rd.
Yeah.
But I think he's doing anything he can do to position himself to get a few of the middle ground votes.
Yeah, well, I think so too. Val, as always, I appreciate you taking the time to lead us off to tonight. And then hopefully you'll be available on Sunday. We'll do it all again. We're going to try to take calls on Sunday if possible. So kind of be on the lookout for that. We'll post whether or not we'll be able to get that worked out. Because I'm interested to hear, Val, too, what people are saying. Did they get a check? What is their employer saying about coming back to work and all those kind of issues. So I think it'll be important to hear from folks. So, again, thank you for stopping in tonight.
Thank you, Ed.
All right. So, everybody, just hang on. When we come back, Chrishawn Williams, former All-American track star from UNC Chapel Hill, is going to be in with us. And then after that, Crystal Mangum. And then we're going to end up with Ed Butler. You're watching The Deal with Ed Clark.
Keep balancing.
welcome back to the deal. I'm your host, Ed Clark, and thanks, Val Atkinson, for doing our first segment tonight, as always, to give us the political perspective on everything. As I promised, I had a guest for the second segment. Her name is Chrishawn Williams, and the reason why she's here is because number one is because she's a Tar Heel and a triple jumper like myself. So Krishan and I kind of met way after I had stopped triple jumping, obviously because that was many years ago when I was triple jumping. But she was an All-American at University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, a very good jumper, long jumper, and triple jumper, and a sprinter. And she went to Southeast Raleigh High School. Krishan, welcome to the deal.
Thank you for having me.
Well, number one, like I said, Tar Heels always get the benefit of the doubt and can get on the show. So thanks for doing that, and being a triple jumper. So that's number two. You got two good things going for you. The reason why I wanted to have you on tonight is two reasons. One is because you're a lot younger than me, and a lot of the guests we've been having over the last few weeks have been older folks talking about their experience with COVID-19, what it's like, or whatever. I wanted to hear from somebody a lot younger, somebody who's just starting their career out, and I know you have some ambitions in what it's like now that the economy is completely turned around. It looks like the economy is in a downturn, and it may take a while for it to come back. And I wanted to try to find out how you're making it and what your friends are thinking. So the first question is, how are you doing through this?
I'm doing okay. With me being the age that I am, I haven't had a lot of work experience when it comes to me being super deep into my career, whereas my parents are fine. They have a pretty stable savings account. My mom's an essential worker, so she's fine. My dad's a barber, but he's been working as long as I've been alive, so he has a pretty substantial savings account. So myself, I don't really have that. And I'm a personal trainer, so of course the gyms are closed, and so I had to file for unemployment because it's a small business. So that was different. Doing the thing with like the government funding, that was something that's really unfamiliar for me. I'm not necessarily living paycheck to paycheck. I had a small savings account, but not enough for me to really feel comfortable not filing for government assistance. My friends a lot of them are in the same boat. Some of them are able to work from home, but the ones who aren't, they're pretty much in the same boat. Some of them are relying on their parents. Myself, of course, I did kind of try to start my own little online business just to kind of help with the income from that perspective. But I'm making it.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. This whole entrepreneurship, sometimes you're pushed into entrepreneurship. The other reason why I wanted you on is because I saw that you were trying to do something else. So talk to me about the little entrepreneurship, that you're trying to do.
Yeah. So as you see, I have locks. I've had them for about 7 years. When I first started them, I used to see these cute little things that girls are putting in their hair, and I was like, what are those? So I went out and I saw how much they cost, which is not crazy expensive, but I was looking at them, and I was just kind of like, okay, I'm pretty sure I can make that and make something that's cuter and probably more inexpensive if I'm making it myself. So a lot of times when I would wear my own jewelry, and I make earrings as well, I get a lot of compliments, and people would ask me where they could get them. And I would always say, oh, girl, I made these myself. Do you sell them? No, I just do it just for me. So with all this stuff going on, I kind of started thinking to myself about that, like, I'm always getting these compliments. A lot of people have asked where they can buy them. I always tell them nowhere. So I've decided to just go ahead and commodify them, basically put them online, try to advertise. That way people can actually see the jewelry, and I can reach a larger market and make a pretty significant amount of sales, which I started marketing this about a week and a half ago. And I think I've made maybe probably about $300 in the past week and a half. So I thought that's not bad for, first week numbers.
Sure, yeah, but what we're trying to do is help you make a lot more. So that's the
Oh,
reason
yeah.
why we have you on, to introduce you to folks. Because I got a feeling that a lot of people are going to have locks coming out of this, and they're going
Oh, absolutely.
to and they're going to need lock jewelry for their hair and that kind of thing. I want to remind the viewers you're watching The Deal with Ed Clark and our special guest Chrishawn Williams, former Southeast Raleigh track star, and went on to the University of North Carolina and became an All-American there. Chrishawn, tell me about what your plans are next. Okay, so you're sitting here and you see all this stuff going around, all the adult stuff going on, the COVID-19, the president acting the fool,
Oh, God.
people struggling, trying to figure out what to do, and the ultimate thing, people having to deal with death. I mean, obviously, this is a serious thing. And so, as a young person, how do you plan the next steps in your life with all this swirling around? And what are your plans for your next phase in life?
Well, this situation has definitely put a lot of things in perspective. I do plan on going to grad school in the fall. I'm going to get my master's in interactive media from Elon. So luckily, I do believe that is something that I will be able to do from home if need be, because what this has taught me is I need to have something that can make money regardless of what's going on in the world. And, anything pretty much dealing with media, there's always going to be social media influencers and things that advertise, people trying to make money just from, just from promotional, just from the promotional respects of things. So I knew that's something that I want to do. And I'm grateful that I decided to do that before all of this stuff went on.
Right.
Of course, not knowing any of this would be a factor, but, I'm thankful that my next step is something that I would hope is pandemic proof in a
Right.
sense,
Yeah.
which I don't know, that's the real thing. But of course, being a personal trainer is not, you can do the online stuff. It's really just not the same. I'm not really big on the online training, especially considering that I train mostly athletes and I
Right.
coach a lot. So I don't really have a market in the online training platform. But, going to school, I'm hoping everything will have kind of subsided by the time it's time for me to go back to school. Hopefully that doesn't have to get pushed back because I'm really interested in starting my career, building up my income and my savings account and paying off, little debt in my car and stuff like that, which I actually just got a new car right before this stuff happened. So
Bad timing.
yeah, terrible timing. My car got totaled, so I had to get a new car, and I hadn't had a car payment in ever because my dad bought me the car in college, and I was like, I'm gonna ride this little car so the wheels fall off. The wheels fell off, and yes, I had to get a new one. I was like, oh my gosh, so it's been stressful, but I'm really optimistic. Thank God, knowing my family's been directly affected as far as illnesses. I keep praying that that doesn't happen. I'm calling my grandmas and dropping off stuff on their porch
Right.
and telling them not to come outside. But luckily, I haven't. I'm blessed and thankful that I haven't really been super affected as far as like the health side of things. But I'm hoping this doesn't get any worse than this.
Well, yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I'm so glad to hear that nobody in your family's been affected. As we wrap up here, tell us, how do we find your jewelry and things online, and like you said, you're not really an online coach or whatever. We have that same background too. I coached plenty of jumpers and other athletes over the years, and so that's hard to come by at this time because there's just really no way to do that. But what about your jewelry and some of the other stuff? How can we find you online?
So I have an Etsy shop. Etsy is ETSY. So if you do an Etsy search, and then my name on Etsy is Chrishawn. So it's basically my name with the A in the middle. So it's ChriAShawn. And again, that's on Etsy. You can check out my Instagram. It's c.williams. So CDOTWILLIAMS. And the link is actually on my page, along with some of my other workout videos and motivational pictures, and all that fun stuff that people may just enjoy looking at.
Well, I have to tell you, I've watched you work out, and it makes me tired watching you work out. I feel like I gotta work out. You're if I do encourage people to go look because Chrishawn is more in shape than just about anybody I've seen, and uh, incredible workout. Uh, person. I would not want to work out with you. Let's just put it that way.
I think you can hang with me.
Okay, whatever. Anyway, so number one, thank you for coming in, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to check back with you in a couple of weeks, see how you're doing. We're going to try to get your Etsy shop promoted, and get people there to buy things there. And as we leave you tonight, I want people to stick around when we come back. I have an interview with Crystal Mangum. She is from the Duke lacrosse case. She's in prison right now. We were able to interview her from jail, and she's going to talk to us about the experience of prisoners in jail through COVID-19. Uh, and it's a really interesting interview. It's not very long because it was hard to get it done, but I want you to stick and stay for that. And Chrishawn, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me. Bye-bye. Stay safe.
Right. Thank you. Good evening and welcome back to our third segment of the deal tonight. We were going out with Chrishawn Williams, and again, thank her for coming in and sharing her perspective from a younger person. I think it's important that we talk to a lot of different voices. I promised that we had Crystal Mangum. Crystal is the figure from the Duke lacrosse case, and there's a lot of mythology around the Duke lacrosse case. I had a lot of involvement in it at the time. And I continue to talk to Crystal. And actually, we had been working on a podcast about her effort to get a new trial. Many of you may or may not know that she's currently incarcerated in North Carolina for manslaughter in a case where she claimed self-defense. There's a lot to the story, and I won't go into detail here about it. The podcast, we're still working on it. It'll be about 4 or 5 episodes long about her situation currently, and why she thinks she deserves a new trial. But I do have something. Here's a report from Dr. Cyril Wecht. Dr. Wecht is a world-renowned pathologist. He's looked at a lot of cases over time, and he looked at Crystal's case, and his conclusion was that she should be either let go or minimally have a new trial. But she's been having an ordeal trying to get that done. So the other day when we were recording our normal call for the podcast, I did ask her about COVID-19, how folks were faring in prison, and that kind of thing. It's audio only, and there's no video because I had no idea at the time that I wanted to use it here. But it's only about 3 or 4 minutes long. So we're going to go to that. This is Crystal Mangum. A lot of people haven't even heard her voice before. And we're going to be talking about a number of different things. Her wanting a new trial, and also how COVID-19 is impacting prisoners in the North Carolina criminal justice system. Stay tuned for that. And then after that, we'll take a break, and then we'll come back and we'll end up with Ed Butler, who's a very accomplished drummer that lives here in the Triangle area. And we're going to talk to him about how COVID has affected the music scene. We'll be right back, or actually we're going to go right to Crystal Mangum, and then after that we'll be back with Ed Butler.
Yeah, so it looks like I may have to file all over again. It seems like somebody should be held accountable for it, though, but they don't know where to start or, who to hold accountable.
Well, it just sounds fishy to me. I mean, I don't know why they feel like they have to keep doing that to you. They wouldn't do that to other folks.
Well, they have to uphold the Duke lacrosse myth, that they were innocent and I'm crazy and I lied and everybody else lives happily ever after and I'm the villain. They have to live up to that. So. Right.
But, how are you feeling now? I mean, just in general, your health is okay. I'm worried about this virus thing.
Well, with the lupus, it seems like it's making my blood sugar, my heart, and everything is out of whack. So it's trying to put me on another medication. They're trying to wait to see if this medication is going to help. They increased it. Hydroxychloroquine.
Yeah.
They increased that.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
But, this is a 5-minute phone call. They gave us 2-3 calls.
Okay, I was wondering. Okay, so you're on the hydroxychloroquine already though, but that's for your lupus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Has anybody got the corona that you know of?
Not here in the men's prison, but not in any of the women's prisons in North Carolina.
Thank goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's always good to hear from you.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
We'll figure this out.
All right.
Well, figure out when you can call me back, and then a longer call, and we can talk some more.
Okay. Yeah. And welcome back to the deal. I'm your host, Ed Clark, and thanks for being in with us on another Wednesday night. As I promised, I got another guest in, but we want to thank the folks who have already been in with us. Val Atkinson in the first segment. Then we heard from Chrishawn Williams, former All-American track and field star from the University of North Carolina. And then we had a little snippet there. You just heard from Crystal Mangum from the Duke lacrosse case. We've actually been working on a longer documentary podcast about her situation. She's currently incarcerated in North Carolina. We were able to speak to her for a few minutes today, and hopefully you got something out of that. And as I promised, and you saw the clip coming in from the break of some guy named Ed Butler, who's a very good percussionist. And Ed Butler, welcome to the deal.
Thank you, man. Thank you, Ed. It's good to be here.
Well, I thought about you being a guest for a lot of reasons, because I don't know if you remember way back when podcasts first started, we tried to do one called the Bitter Old Pod, and we were just two grumpy old men talking junk about everything. But a lot of people know you from being a very good musician. And that's how I met you. You were excellent percussionist and can play the banjo, do a lot of things. And I was thinking about you because obviously this thing, the quarantine, has had an effect on people who gig. And you have a long career of doing a lot of really good music, and I know it must be killing you not to be able to get out and perform. How are you feeling about not being able to perform?
Well, I mean, I miss it. I miss it with all the groups that I play with. There's not much I can say.
Not much
I
miss it.
I miss.
Yeah.
I mean, I miss the playing, and yes, I miss the income. But I miss the playing. I don't do it to get paid. Yes, it's nice, but I just miss performing with a group of people simultaneously in the same room in front of people who appreciate it.
Right.
And that's what I miss.
Yeah. So have you been talking with other musicians in the area, and ones that you would probably see if you were out playing? I'm sure you guys have missed a lot of gigs already in a month's time, and it looks like it's going to go much longer. And one of the things I also been thinking about is, even when this thing is over, how comfortable people are going to feel going back out and taking in live music. What do you think is going to happen to the scene? You know, I mean, I'm sure you got some regular gigs that you do. Are you anticipating things to go back to normal, or how long is this thing going to take, Ed Butler?
Okay, so I'm going to answer a couple things. One, you said when it's over, people are going to feel comfortable. My wife, Rohima, and I were talking FaceTime the other day to a very good friend of mine, one of my best friends. And she said, when this is all over, she's not sure if she's going to be ready to go out to see any concerts because she's not sure who is, what is, has, if anything. Is it still going on? Will there still be strains? Will there still be a virus? Will people get it again? She says, it's going to take me a while. I mean, if they say in September, okay, you can go out. But that doesn't mean September 1st, I'm going to hit the road. It might not be till November 1st, December 1st, maybe even March. I don't know. And I've heard that from a number of different people. Mm-hmm. In terms of the venues, first of all, some of the venues just have to survive, period. Forget the band thing. They just have to survive. Most of them, bars/restaurants, may not even make it.
Right.
So I don't know. The only thing that I think I'm going to do right now, the only thing on my calendar is every year I do a Christmas Carol, Ira David Wood's Christmas Carol, but that's in December. I'm being optimistic, just thinking maybe that will happen. But I can't think of anything else before that because I don't know if it'll happen.
Yeah, I get you. I want to remind the viewers and listeners you're watching The Deal with Ed Clark, special guest tonight, Ed Butler, who's a excellent percussionist, played in a lot of different bands that you've probably seen and probably played on some stuff that you've heard but didn't know he was playing on because that's the way it works in this business. Let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about your music a little bit. Have you been writing anything or playing anything that's giving you solace during this time? What does a musician do to try to get through this time period?
I'm not proud, I'll admit it. I was talking to my therapist today, and one thing that I told him was that there's a silver lining in this. And one of them for me is that I get to spend a lot of time in my studio. Before this was happening, I'm not a techno whiz like you are. Yeah. I can't, if I run into technical problems, it shuts me down. Therefore, if I'm going to be creative and I need to turn my computer on and go, I'm in creative mode. But as soon as I have to become Mr. Engineer, suddenly I freeze up and I give up. Mm. Because of this whole thing, now that we're home, I go out there and I spend a lot of time and I tweak. And it's also everyone else is doing the same thing. We're all learning a new normal. For example, my wife, she's working telemedicine from home. My therapist works telemedicine from home. And we said one of the things that may change is that might be comfortable for you guys now when it's all over. Why do I have to drive all the way to Durham when I can actually see patients here?
Right.
Now musicians are beginning to take up the same thing. We're learning how to manipulate the technology so that we can still perform together. I've got a couple things in the fire right now. I've been asked to do some things with a bunch of friends of mine. One of them in LA, he's originally from here in Durham. Another guy in Chapel Hill, he wants to start a show. I've done some drum tracks for one of my bands, and the other band, we're going to do one of those, all of us record on our phones and mix it together. Mm-hmm. So it's actually been really joyous. It's been kind of uplifting. Now I'm not so much afraid of my technology. Now it's just a matter of learning it. And I had said to myself once before, what's my hurry? What's my hurry? I'm not in any hurry. So just take your time. Right. So now I am taking my time and I am playing. So I'm performing with people, but it's just virtual.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's going to open up a whole lot for a lot of people. Because again, we don't know when we're going to actually be out in the real world to play.
Right. Yeah, I've been thinking about this whole virtual thing too, and it's going to change the way people consume music. We've been changing the way we consume music for a long time now anyway. I mean, I remember where, 45 records, I'd run down to the record store, get that, and that's the way you consumed it. 8-track tape, been through the whole thing, mini disc, everything was going to, be the it thing, and this whole being able to communicate, even like we are right now. We're able to communicate and put this show together with very little equipment. Stuff that used to cost $1 million now is down to a couple $100, and you have a TV show, right? So,
yeah.
And now you also have a music performance space where people can consume your music, and it may not be that you go sit in a packed room close to other people, at least for the time being. I think it'll come back, but I don't think it'll be anytime soon. Let's switch gears one more time then. Let's talk personal. I know you're originally from Maryland, from the Baltimore area.
Baltimore.
That's right. Have you heard from home? So
yes.
What does it sound like in Baltimore?
So I have, let's see, I've got 4 sisters in Baltimore. Actually, one's in Annapolis, and the other 3 are in Baltimore. Am I remembering everybody? Beverly, Renee, Joe, and Gloria. Yeah, I got, boy, he run. They seem to be doing fine. One sister, she's retired from teaching, and she's pretty much staying in the house. She's food's delivered. She barely opens the door. One of my sisters, oh, you'll like this, works for the post office.
And I know that. And that's why I was going there. Has she said anything about her experience with the postal service?
She's more of a manager type. She doesn't go out and deliver anymore. She's a manager of some sort, so she stays in the office.
Okay.
But they wear masks. That's about it. That's all.
Okay.
My other sister, now, she's the one that I'm more concerned with. She actually works in a retirement community. Mm. And both she and her husband are in that place of, what's the word? What do they say? Where they can be easily compromised.
Right.
But she's doing fine. She's also a manager, a staffing manager. So she never sees the residents. She only deals with the staff. But, it's a matter of carrying this to that and this person to that person.
Yeah, sure.
But she says, they crack the door and talk to me. They all have to wear masks. They all wash their hands. They all wear gloves. So she's pretty good. So all in all, they're staying safe. They're not being dumb about it. They know what has to be done, so they're taking care of business. And most of my people, cousins and aunts and uncles, they're also in the same place.
Well, good to hear. This is just really strange times. I mean, I've been knowing you for over 30 years now, and the world's gone through a lot of different things. And like I said, we did that podcast. It's probably 10 years ago now. We tried to do that, and we were talking about politics and current events and those kind of things. I'm gonna ask you a political question, an observation. Did you ever think that a person like Donald Trump could be elected president of the United States?
Boy, geez, geez, oh gosh. The answer is yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember the night of the election, and my wife, I love her so much. She's a hardcore radical. I mean, she's serious. She is left of left of left. And her friends and the people that she deals with are also that way. They all pretty much didn't like who was running against 45. I'll just say that.
Right.
But they all thought that she was going to do it because it's who she was. I knew. I told them. And matter of fact, she and I and this couple from Florida who are also hardcore lefties, we went, the night of the election, we went down to Hilton Head because we have a little timeshare there, a little Disney timeshare. And they were all like, yeah, well, we'll know what happened in the morning. She'll win. Everything's fine. And I say to them, no, I don't think you guys, I don't think so. And, you know, these folks are professionals. They've been in the field. They've marched. They've done all the stuff. They follow it. I mean, they are serious. But they look at me like, oh, you don't know anything because you're not political. I go, well, it's not that. It's just that I see. And they went, no. And I went, okay. Next morning when we woke up, I said, I hate to say I told you so, guys, but it doesn't surprise me. It didn't surprise me. And I don't have much faith in this upcoming election.
Well,
I mean, you know, we can call, you know, 45 and orange baboon and idiot a dummy all we want. But when it comes down to it, the man is savvy as shit.
Yeah.
And he knows what, quote, the masses want to hear and see. And he works the living shit out of that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's a sad state of affairs. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I just...
It does not inspire a lot of hope, does it?
It doesn't. Really.
Yeah. Well, so we're in with Ed Butler tonight, and we got a few minutes left. I want to turn to something more positive and
please,
hopefully make people feel better. Is there any way we can listen to any of your music right now? If we're locked in the house, I want to find some Ed Butler drumming on some. Is there a place to find your music somewhere where we can listen to it?
You know, I am the worst salesman in the world.
Well, I tell you what, I'm gonna help you with that. Then when we get off, let's talk about how I can get some of your music together, and we'll put a link on the website, and then people can go and listen to it. You didn't see it, but on the way back into this segment, I played some Sidecar Social Club with you playing the drums there, coming in from the break. So people got to see you at least perform a little bit. We'll figure out how to get some more of that so people can see it, because I think at this time we need all the good things we can get, and listening to you playing percussions is probably what we need at this point.
Thank you, man.
Well,
thank you.
Well, folks, listen, Wednesday nights and Sunday afternoons, what we try to do is give you different voices from around the country and around the world, hopefully. We have some guests coming up from Ireland and from California and everywhere else, and to talk about not just COVID-19, but all the things around it, what's happening in your world, and how we're going to get through this together as a group, and despite Donald Trump, right? Not because of Donald Trump. In the meantime, I want to thank Val Atkinson at the top of the show. Again, Chrishawn Williams, former All-American at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, Crystal Mangum, and then, of course, Ed Butler. And I'd like for you to come back at some point, and we'll chop it up again, and hopefully under better circumstances.
Yeah, maybe I'll have my banjo next time.
Yeah, that would be great. I think people should hear you play the banjo. In the meantime, come back with us on Sunday. Val and I'll catch you up on all things politics. And we're working on a guest that is a constitutional law professor, Al Joyner. Hopefully he'll be in with us to talk about some of the things that are going on in D.C. In the meantime, have a good evening. Share this with other people. Come back again with us on Sunday and next Wednesday. In the meantime, do something good for somebody. You can do it. We can get through this. Good night.
Good night.
Cool beans. See how easy it is?